What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with some more acid techno, and we're back with a tune I enjoy so greatly I had to buy 2 copies of it. I've mentioned this before in a number of reactions. There are certain releases that even when they first come out, I have the sense that not only would I like to have a backup copy, if you will, but in some cases there are multiple tracks on the vinyl I like a great deal and maybe have the same sort of vibe, so you could use them in the same set if you have 2 copies. Now, I know digital DJs is not an issue, but obviously if you only have 1 copy of a record, you can't mix from one track on the record into another. So if you have 2, you can do that. As you can see here, this is normal, and then this one I put a little red mark on. I assume that means there may be a notable pop or maybe even a little surface noise somewhere. I tend to try to indicate to myself which copy of a record is in better shape, although over time it may become less true. If you keep using the same one that is the better copy, maybe eventually it will have more surface noise than the one that you've actually been withholding for a while under the premise that it's not as good. So either way, we'll use the one without the red mark, but I imagine, I don't remember either copy having a notable defect, so we're going to listen to a tune called Croydon Girl. This is a track by Chris, Liberator, Sterling Moss with Rackitt. Chris and Sterling I think I've talked about in a few releases. I know I reacted to their Welcome to the New Normal, a track they recently did on the Stay Up Forever Overdose series, but yeah, they're a prolific duo. When I sort of return to an active state of DJing acid techno, which is just to say there was a sort of slight hiatus, slight lull between maybe 05 and 08. I was listening to a lot of punk rock and getting back into going to shows, and I was still buying records, still sort of picking up tracks on Discogs, but I had sort of fallen out of the habit of paying attention to new releases on Stay Up Forever and acid techno, and it was around 08 when I sort of returned to the fold, if you will. And when that happened, Chris and Sterling had just started to make tunes together, making tunes like I'm Bored and Acid Wah 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 and so on, and I was like, oh my god, this duo is amazing. Any duo with Chris is of course amazing, but yeah, they really sort of lit my brain on fire. I have a number of their records. They're still making tracks together to this day. Rackitt is a old school acid techno warrior. She has tracks on the sort of 90s Stay Up Forever. And then she also has, she operated a label. It was I think it was more straight away techno. I'm blanking on the name as I sit here in the moment. I'll try to remember to look it up, and I'll put it in the description or a pinned comment. But yeah, she's been around. She is, an acid techno, old school pioneer, and ultimately this track I think is a sort of homage to where she comes from and what she's all about. So let's get it. This is Chris Liberator and Sterling Moss with Rackitt. The tune is called Croydon Girl, and I want to say this is 2012. It's the first of the Stay Up Forever 100 series. As you can see here, when they got to the 100th release, they actually did 5 tracks that are all given or 5 releases that are all given the cat number 100, like 100-1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the first of them. I think it's 2012. As I begin the track here, I will look it up briefly, and I will also look up Rackitt's label, so we don't have to wait for that. Woof. Okay, so the vinyl is 2011. Continue my hunt after the reaction. But the resistance. Double time ride symbol.
I'm from Croydon.
and Sterling's tracks have this like acid-techno punk rock attitude, which they did a track called Punk Attitude. I'm not sure if I reacted to it on this channel. Definitely did on my old channel. But you can basically say that about a lot of their tracks. It just has this sort of acid meets punk sort of feel.
Fast drugs.
So we've heard a few things that she's all about. Fat 303s, fat rigs, fast drugs. It's just direct. It's like techno train. It's just on a track, and if you're in the way, like, good luck to you.
I'm from Croydon.
Assault of acid-techno. Aerial, submarine, terrestrial, everywhere. Especially in Croydon.
I'm from Croydon.
What's your specialist subject?
Acid-techno.
Why did you choose that?
Cause I love fat 303s, fat rigs, fast drugs. Fuck you.
One of the 3 live sets I have on my channel, it's like a DJ Shnootz party set playlist. The one called Acid Rain, I played this track, and yeah, when that moment drops, you can actually hear like some of the shock from people who were not prepared for that vocal sample. It's not like a sample, it's recorded for the track. It's not technically a sample, right?
Acid-techno.
The 2 sharp, like, accent whips. And I will tell you, thinking of that party where I played this, the kick drum in this track is unbelievably powerful. It's one of the heaviest kicks I know.
Fuck you.
Hear it on a fat rig or on a good set of headphones, and it's like the thunderous kick will become very, very clear. As I say that, I think I'm technically redlining them. guitar riff.
I'm from Croydon.
I was trying to remember if she does come back and say that at the end, and she does indeed. Although, as I was thinking that it was coming, I think I was thinking about it like the final beat, then the sample, but it was the final beat ending with the sample ending with the final beat. In any case, a really cool tune. Again, it was sort of like this really exciting renaissance in my own love of acid techno. It's a genre that goes back to like '96 for me, but ultimately, I didn't get a whole lot of it when I first started buying when I first started buying records after getting turntables. And then over the next few years, I got some here and there. Again, I got like the remix vinyl of The Rabbit's Name Was, which I think is Stay Up Forever Remix 2, maybe 3, I think it's 2. Either way, I had some records early on, and over time I got more, but it was when I had this sort of, after a 2 or 3 year hiatus, when I returned to buying acid techno and to like really pursuing it, that's when like my collection of acid techno sort of rapidly expanded. It was like cosmic inflation acid techno. Nevertheless, so the tracks from this period are like very special to me, and Chris and Sterling's tunes from this period perhaps as much as any other, just because again, some of the first that I heard like after coming back from the wilderness, if you will, were Chris and Sterling tracks, and it was just like, holy shit, like Chris has a new collaboration partner and these fucking tracks like slam, holy crap. So yeah, this is another one, a fantastic track. Shout out to Rackitt. Not only do I enjoy her tracks going back, but yeah, ultimately, I think this is a really cool and memorable tune, and it's sort of like, her putting her imprint on the track and sort of, laying, or giving voice to sort of the heritage and the legacy of her place in the larger like London acid techno scene. Anyway, let me know what you think of this tune. The track on the other side we'll come back for. It's called The Drums, and it actually features some live drums. I've heard some mixed opinions on it, which is interesting to me, because I think it's a really fantastic track with some great acid work. But again, I've heard a couple people say that they actually don't like the live drum part, and they wish it just sort of cut that part out, which I find interesting. So we'll come back for that one, and we'll see what people think. Do let me know what you think of this one. I will see you next time. Peace.